All right. Good morning, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Eric, how's it going by you?
Hey, I'm doing well. Can you hear me?
Yep, I got you.
All right. You guys doing?
Solid. Keeping an eye out for Tesla following up on yesterday's earnings. Looks like it is gapping down pretty hard here,
Oof.
breaking some areas on the daily as well. So keeping an eye definitely on that. I also see gold getting a little bit of a rebound. And then some of the banks, and I mean, just red kind of across the board, I would say, for most of what I'm looking at. How are futures looking to you?
Yeah, it's kind of the same story. It's right across the board. So looks like some earnings are starting to roll in, right? So I think it's one of those things that people were kind of expecting just a little downturn. I think Tesla's kind of the first to give some kind of disappointment. So we'll see how this, if it's just an anomaly or if the other one's going to follow suit. But this is what we're all expecting. Everyone's thinking, oh, recession, soft landing, when is it? So this is a fairly red day, but I mean, it could be a lot worse. But we'll see how the session plays along.
All right, perfect. Evan, what's going on?
Yep, what is up? How are we doing? Yeah, it was an interesting morning, not the busiest of stuff. I'd say the biggest news was Taiwan Semiconductor earnings, kind of about 12:30 in the morning, more or less. But a lot of big news after the close yesterday, Tesla earnings. Running through a couple of the biggest stories from this morning's, though, we did have initial jobless claims, 245K above expectations of 240K. We did have AMD coming out and that's announcing the new availability of some chips. These are for always on networking firewalls specifically. We have a bunch of price target changes, mostly downwards for Tesla, coming out today off of their earnings yesterday. We have Moderna and IBM announcing a new agreement to work together. Moderna is going to use IBM's technology to explore some next generation technologies, including quantum computing and artificial intelligence. That's just reading off the headline. And then I did hint at it. We had a couple earnings this morning. The ones I will read off: Taiwan Semi beat on EPS and missed on revenue. American Express missed on EPS but beat on revenue, and then Blackstone came in line on expectations on EPS, and then missed on revenue. We also had Union Pacific and a couple others, so maybe I'll read those out a little bit later on and dig into the numbers once we have a free moment. And then also the the SpaceX launch is about to happen in 10 minutes. They're going to be launching that super heavy rocket, so definitely watching for that.
All right, thank you, Stock Market News. We got some other people up on the panel. Kim, what are you watching this morning?
Good morning. I'm in sunny California. It's beautiful down here. It's been really cold though. But I'm watching Tesla, of course, because that is down, I think, about 8% now. So, seeing how that's going to move the market today, uh, because it's, one of the big trading stocks. So looks like it went outside the expected move or just right at the expected move. I think the expected move was about 18 points for earnings, and that's about where it close to where it is right now because I think it closed at 180 yesterday. So it'd be nice to have a little bit of a down day because, be nice to I think the market has just been so stagnant trading in this range. So having a little pullback might be really good to see if some of those key levels hold with this Tesla earnings coming out.
All right, sounds good, Kim. Penny Lane Blaine, how about yourself?
Hey guys. Um, kind of outside of my wheelhouse. I usually just trade NQ and ES. Sometimes a little RTY, but um, honestly, I've just been stalking a Nvidia trade all week, looking for Nvidia to get over 280, and it just keeps hitting 280 and then rejecting and rejecting. And I'd really like to get in that trade if it can break above and hold. So that's really the only thing I'm looking at. I'm going to take it very easy today because it's just these conditions have not been perfect for my trading. So I'm trying to just, be patient for something that, I love a trend day. And yesterday, ES had kind of a nice little trend day, which was great. But overall, it just doesn't feel like the conditions are perfect for my way of trading. So that's what I'm looking at.
All right, thank you. And Sean, how about yourself?
Good morning, everybody. So I'm mostly focused on futures as well. I, of course, want to see how Tesla affects the market, as it tends to have quite the impact. But I'd like to pull back too. I'd like to at least see the single prints in the 4130s fill and get some structure if the market does decide to move back up. I think I'd like a bigger pullback on that to help build with the structure, but mostly in kind of wait and see mode. To be perfectly honest, I think going to take it easy through earnings, and certainly right now through this level. I mean, here we are at 4150 again. Want to see how price action responds during RTH.
Sounds good. Any other pieces within the futures realm that you're focused on today?
Not really. I really want to see the structure build out. Because we did have a nice pullback. The market kind of was on stilts for a while there last week. They did come back and fill in some of the structure, but mostly waiting on that. I mean, I know it's a broad range, but this 4150 and 4200, until something significant happens in those areas, I'm gonna trade shop the best I can. If it's develops a nice balance zones. I mean, I like to trade shop with VWAP and standard deviations of VWAP, and sometimes that works out great. But mostly, I really want to see what happens with price action at those two levels I mentioned. Just be patient. There's plenty of time.
Okay, sounds like a plan right now. I'm talking SPY, but we're also obviously focusing on the futures here with ES and NQ. Looking at SPY for a minute, it is down about 0.7%. It's at 411.3. Still near the high of the year, though. Not very far off from it. QQQ down about 0.88. Still near its high as well. Although, a little bit of a pullback today, and Tesla does like to lead the market. Eric, want to walk through what else you're focused on?
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how this day turns out because I feel like there's news in the morning and there's been very, very quiet kind of throughout the afternoon, and then it'll just start kind of grinding away, either in the other direction or just. I mean, we haven't seen the day that's been really a full trend. Like there have been reversals throughout the day, or there's just been just flat out chop with real no momentum. So I think it's just a matter of time before we get a break. And I know it's probably the hardest thing in the world as a trader to wait for your breaks and breakouts, breakdowns, whatever you want to call them, which is perfect for turning out talking about psychology because patience is one of those key things that I struggle with. So seeing it today, if going to be some continuation in downside, I know we kind of started off yesterday with a downside or a gap down yesterday, and then just kind of grinded our way all the way back up. So would be very interested to see if there is any different market behavior or if we are just going to continue here sitting chopping that zone. It's kind of pretty amazing because Sean, like you said, it was up on stilts or whatnot, but it does feel like it's just kind of hanging out here. And then every time we try to get some downside, there's just been some buyers step in. So it'll be good to know. We got just under 5 minutes for the market open, so we'll see if this actually has any movement.
Sounds perfect. Okay, coming into it in about 3 minutes here. I know we also wanted to focus on some of the more educational components throughout the day today. So we've got some great speakers on stage to throw that at. Kim, maybe I can bring you in first on that topic, just following up on what we were talking about last week. For the audience, we obviously do these futures trading spaces on Thursday. Just curious, how you think is the best way for beginner futures traders to learn about futures trading.
The first thing to do is, when I first stepped into futures trading, I'll be honest, I did not know the risk I was taking. And fortunately, I got really lucky. And I don't think luck is a strategy. I just did not fully understand that, like, if you're trading NQ, what that notional value is. And that's why when I've talked on these spaces before, I really like to talk, for me, I like to talk in terms of, like, how many shares of Q or SPY am I trading, right? So if I take on a micro MNQ, that's 80 shares. If I take on the mini, it's 800 shares. And I like to think of it in those terms because that tells me the risk that I'm taking, especially if you're holding those trades overnight. So when I first started trading futures, it was a big, huge down day. And I just kept selling every pop. And I was like putting 2 NQs on, 4 NQs on. And I made like $15,000 that day. But it was definitely luck because I had no like real clue of what I was really doing, right? So don't do that. You can make big money, but you need to really sit back and understand what you're trading. And that's really why I use the micros now, because you can scale in if trades go against you. And if you're planning on more swing trading, that's a really valuable way to trade versus going with the minis, right? Because I'm taking on less risk with the micros. And if I'm swing trading it, I'm looking for certain levels to hit. Then I can scale in if it's taking time to go the direction that I want. So really educating yourself. I educated myself through Tasty Trade. That's just what I use. They have a great free platform that you can sign up for with really great educational videos. I know we have Elite Trading Fund here. I'm not a funded trader. I do trade my own account. But so there is lots of great resources available. And then I know we're going to get into the psychology of this today, so I really can't wait. But always start small and make sure that you're educated before you take on trades.
Sounds good. Thank you, Kim. Sean, anything you want to add on to that?
Sure. Kim's point about the notional value is really, really smart. I mean, one micro represents about $45,000 of SPY right now, and a mini is 450,000. So don't get it twisted when you're trading. Like, realize what you're trading and what's going on. But for beginner traders, if I were to recommend what to learn in terms of how to trade futures, I would personally recommend market structure. I think it's a great way to understand how markets work, understand how markets build on themselves, and it gives great levels for targets to look out for and areas to look for price action and volume. So that would be what I would say to a beginner futures trader. And obviously considering not trading your own money until you know what you're doing. So the prop firms do offer a big potential savings in terms of your risk and risking your own capital. So just that basic idea of basic and essential idea of protecting your own capital. You can do that with the prop firms and shake out those nerves, shake out those rookie mistakes with someone else's money, and with some skin in the game, more so than paper would have.
Awesome. Yeah, makes sense. We just got into market open right here. I'm watching the ESM3 on the 5 minute. It's at 4148 at the moment. I'm also going to examine a little bit of hedge price to see if that's something that I can focus on. Eric, what's the first thing that you do when we hit market open?
So I'm kind of a person who doesn't really like to trade the open because for me, I know there are a bunch of people who are much more experienced and they have a great strategy to do this, but maybe it's nerves or maybe it's the fact that what I saw as gambling in the open and just getting destroyed. I have a tendency to hold my losers a little bit longer because of the volatility in the open. So I try not to do it. I just really just sit there and watch and see if there's any kind of movement in either direction, see if there's any response from buyers or sellers or what have you, in either direction. So I'm a wait and see kind of person. I know there are a bunch of people who they make their own day within the first 15 minutes, and that's great. I don't know how you do it. I've tried it, doesn't work for me. Still haven't figured out how they do it. It just amazes me. But that's for me. I personally like to watch and see. Right now, we're just kind of sitting at the level for ES. So it's are they going to break through it? Are they going to just I don't know. It's been a really hard one to figure out. So and all I've been somewhat profitable it has not been without some scares. So I'm trying to make myself patient, and this is the hardest part of it.
Understood. Nick, Gina, what are you watching this morning?
Futures and SPY. Obviously we talked about Tesla a lot last night. I am watching the flight right now, or sorry, the what's it? Well, yeah, the
The
flight.
SpaceX thing, yeah, they
Yeah,
started the countdown. 15 seconds should be
No,
going off.
it's in the air, Evan.
Oh, is it? My thing's
yeah, it's
delayed
about
then.
to right now.
No, it
Yeah,
took off. It took
sure.
off. It's 18. Yeah, I'm
Oh,
watching.
I'm watching the thing that Evan posted right now. It's just going. I must be delayed.
Yeah, I mean it's in the air. It's shaking.
Yeah.
For anyone that's not familiar, SpaceX is launching a rocket right now. So that was the one
And
that was delayed.
obviously it could affect Tesla a little bit, which it usually does. But yeah, I'm watching SPY and ES, trying to see if we get over some key levels here. 4154 for the futures. That would be for the bulls.
Leaning bullish today.
No, I'm really not, but just want to see we're closer to that level, so that's why I kind of just talked about that one. Breaking below 4142, I'd see more downside. So 4154, we could possibly test a little bit up. 4142, we could, obviously test a little bit down.
Got it. Do let me take anything. And to anyone on the panel, if you're even thinking of taking something, please share it with the panel, so we can kind of examine your thought process, get a little bit of a better feel into it. Penny, do you typically trade within the first 15 minutes of the open?
Yeah, Pax Trader came on last time I was on here, and I trade with him, and we trade the opening range breakout, which has, it's been difficult recently. We haven't gotten a ton of opening range breakouts that lead. I mean, right this second, I'm long in Q. Got long like right after the open, and we'll just see if I get stopped out on this. And I usually put my stop like right if it breaks below the opening range. If I get stopped out on this, I'm probably gonna just call it a day, since I wasn't even really planning on trading in the first place. But just following the process.
Yep, I understand. Makes sense. By the way, everybody, looks like that rocket launch was successful as far as I can see. It's 31 kilometers in the air right now.
It's still going. They have a couple more stages.
Yeah, it doesn't, but it looks like it hasn't blown up, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The meme hasn't blown up yet.
Yeah, something like that. We'll see. Okay, well, we can keep it rolling around here. Penny, you got something else there?
Oh, nope. Sorry about that.
No worries. I'm watching MNQ as well. It is actually popping right here. So 13083. Looking for maybe a little bit of a move to the upside. Watching MGC as well. So a couple of different futures tickers, and yeah, for those that are used to our normal spaces, every Thursday morning we do a futures trading space. We try to make it very educational as well, teach people how to deal with losses. We do it together with the team over from Elite Trader Funding. I've got a link pinned in the top of the space if you'd like to check that out. Basically, they I think solve a problem for a lot of people, which is a lot of people want to learn about more about futures trading, because if you're like myself and you traded options in the past, you understand the struggles of calling it right. You know, you're like, this SPY's going up today. I'm taking the calls here, and somehow you still lose money, right? And you're like, what happened? And that's theta decay, that's IV, and a number of factors that are difficult to deal with. And with futures trading, you don't necessarily have to deal with those. You can just get that volatility without having to lose money for the stock, just, you know, barcoding basically and not going anywhere. Now, the cool part is what they do is they basically provide a simulator account. We have a massive discount that's built
I
into
think
the
it
link.
just blew up, by the way.
Oh, did it actually?
I
Yeah,
think it just did too.
yeah.
By the way, Tesla was ripping. Let's see what it does now if it actually did blow up.
Are you sure it blew up? Everyone's cheering.
Well, listen, they were saying that all of what if it got off the launch pad, it's W, is what they're saying, and it got a bunch of stages, did some good stuff. It did blow up.
All right. Everyone seems very excited over
Yeah,
at
no, I'm watching that too.
So I'm just, I mean, Elon's smiling, so it doesn't seem like it could be that crazy.
Yeah, no, it was more than they wanted. That's what he kept saying. Yeah, it was an interesting end. Just poof, poof, and it was gone.
Nice. Well, what I was just saying real quick is in the top of the space, there is a link. I recommend everybody scroll up if you're interested in futures trading, check it out. That has the different simulator packages, so you don't have to, you know, blow up your account while you're learning how to futures trade. And instead, you can go ahead, check out the simulator packages there. And then if you do beat that simulator, and a lot of people in our spaces have done it in about 2 to 3 weeks, they'll give you a fully funded account. And then you can trade using their dime, keep 80-90% plus of the profits. There's just a nice little system to help people not go broke. What's up, G-Nuts?
Oh, no, sorry. I was unmuted, my bad.
You're good. You're good. I'm just watching ES right now, kind of moving up a little bit further as we are talking here.
I actually did mistakenly not say that I went long for like 3 points there. So my bad. We'll definitely talk about my X trade. The reason why I did go long was over my SPY resistance, and I went long after a closing confirmation, and then I usually set like a 3 or 4 point, depending on how many contracts I had. I only had one here. I usually set like a 3 or 4 point take profit, and in this case I set it before 41.54, and it just filled.
Nice. So you're still long at the moment?
No, it actually just took me all out. I set it for 41.53.50. I think it hit 41.53.75. So I got it by 0.25 before it almost went away from me because now it's 41.52. So I got $2 and $2.75 at points there on the futures. Just a quick scout on the minis.
Sounds good. All right, Kim, let me throw another one at you here. Maybe you could talk with me a little bit about how you just stay motivated when you're trading, and when there's slow days, fast days, just kind of smoothing those out.
Well, I think what keeps me, well, first I wanted to like just talk a little bit about the psychology piece. I'm a mental health therapist and I teach psychology at a university, but so I can get a lot of peer reviewed research and look at like what is the research saying about investing and trading, and people like me and you all on the panel who like to trade. And it's interesting. There's a lot of research on cognitive biases, our biases and how we might think the market's going up, and then that bias, causes us to misperceive like where the market is actually going. So there's a lot of research on biases, but there isn't a lot of research, interestingly enough, on your personality and how that influences trading. And so since about 2016, there has been more researchers in behavioral economics or research management or behavioral psychology. In fact, there's actually a new field of psychology that will be opening up. They're proposing it right now with the American Psychology Association, called behavioral finance. It's actually going to be an organization of the American Psychology Association, a separate discipline, because there just hasn't been a lot of research on how people view the markets, view their finances, view trading, and who they are as a person. Like, I'm an extrovert or an introvert, and so there is some research now that's being done in the last few years that's actually really interesting. And some of that motivation that you just asked about is self-efficacy. So like belief in oneself. So if I approach my trading or the market, for example, and think I can't do it, or I'm never going to understand it, or, I have a bad day and I can't overcome it, then that will affect my attitude towards trading and oftentimes can affect my results. And so it's really knowing when you approach it that the market, to learn it, is not a get rich quick. It's delayed gratification, being able to slowly make gains. And that's really the way that I've learned to approach it, and being able to believe and know that this is something that I can learn and that I don't need to be like every other trader. You have several of us that trade very differently. And for me, day trading isn't my jam, essentially. I do it if a trade goes my way, but I'm better off knowing, like, swinging a trade. And that's where my self-efficacy comes in, because if a trade goes against me, I have this ability to go, okay, how can I take a step back and move that trade forward? So that's really what motivates me, is looking at it more medium term and longer term versus being focused on the minute by minute. And there's some people that are great at it and I can do it, but I don't have a great belief that I can minute by minute trade like that. So I take a more, midterm approach.
Okay, makes sense, Kim. Appreciate it. All right, so looking at the market real quick, we still are pushing up here on ES. I'm looking at the ES M3 at the moment. I do see us actually pushing up pretty strong in the regular stock market on Tesla. So I suppose the rocket launch doing good is providing some fruitful price action there. A bunch of volume just came in, shot up about $4.50 right there. SPY or ES kind of moving towards the green. MNQ as well just had a big push up on that one. Was anyone in that on the MNQ long? That was nice. I think somebody mentioned that they'd gone long MNQ a little bit early.
I'm in QQQ long from the opening range. I just scaled a little bit and put a stop in at 0, so I'm just gonna see what happens. But it was a nice little move there.
All right, nicely done. Penny, maybe I could flip it over to you a little bit. What are your favorite tools when it comes to learning more about futures trading, and where did you learn futures trading, whether it was from a person, podcast, social media, things like that?
So just to be completely honest with you, I'm super, super new to futures trading, and I mostly use it as a tool to trade the indexes, right? Like, I love QQQ, I love SPY, and I'm really an options trader, but I did have the good fortune of working with Anthony Crudele, who is an amazing futures trader, and I learned quite a bit from him, and of course PAX. So I learned by watching them, but Also, Anthony has a network called Place Your Trades that does daily options on futures that I find are not intimidating. They're very low risk, a low risk way to dip your foot into trading. So it's called Place Your Trades. If you guys want to look it up and see what they're all about, I think there's some very good education there. And we talked for a while about it being futures with training wheels, which I really love that term because everybody, I think it's, I've recently talked a lot about how I've gone through a bit of a hard time in my trading, and I had a strategy that was working great and then kind of just lost my way. And I love I love what they're doing at Place Your Trades as a way to be in the market without ever feeling over leveraged or out of control or anything like that. So I'd recommend that. And then I also love Pax. Like, he's a great mentor, and he's a floor trader, and his depth of knowledge is just beyond. So I'd get yourself a good mentor, and I'd start as small as you can. My advice.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I like that. I think that, again, it just comes back to having proper risk management off the bat and learning in an environment that supports learning. And for, me, when I'm learning futures, that's been through the simulator. So I'll tell you this, I think that I believe in skin in the game. And I think that that's why, the simulator costs whatever it is, $30-$40, but that's better than going and losing thousands of dollars in a single move. Right. For many people, your first trade, you can basically get skin in the game by having it on a simulator, but then not have to have thousands of dollars skin in the game, because I think everybody in here can probably lose 30-40, but probably not 10 grand. So it just has a little bit of scale there. So again, I did pin that link in the top of the space. I do recommend you check it out if you haven't already, to learn a little bit more on the future side of things. Penny, anything else you want to add there?
Nope, I'm good.
Cool. Well, we're still pushing up here on MNQ as well.
Yep.
So not seeing too many red candles just yet. Red candle here, though, on ES. A little bit of a pullback on Tesla right there. Okay. Sean, let me pull it to you. Same type of questions. What do you think are some of the best ways for people to learn in the early days of their futures trading, and what are maybe some guiding websites or resources that you'd recommend?
Well, in terms of what I was saying earlier, and learning market structure, I think that why not start with the granddaddy himself, the guy who created TPO charts, Jim Dalton, is a great resource. He's actively teaching still. He has courses. I think that that's a great resource. He's a great mentor. VWAP Trader, JJ, you've had him on here, is a great resource. He's he's kind of from that school of thinking. Both can be great mentors. And I think that, for me, when I first started with futures, it was such a relief to be rid of theta, get theta the hell out of my life. And for those who are out there who do trade options and might be ready to try something different, that right there is pretty good motivation. And I think that when you start out, there's sometimes people miss that leverage that futures can give you, but when you start to experience instant settlement, which is wonderful, and when you can have really clear, easy stops set versus it's trickier. Anyone who's still actively trading options, I'd be welcome to hear your feedback on this. But stops on options are a little bit trickier because pullbacks, because of IV and whatnot, aren't necessarily the worst thing in the world. So it's much trickier. And I like And then in futures, you can just set your stop at whatever, 6 ticks, 12 ticks, and be out and done and accept the fact the trade is over and wait for the next one with a minimal loss. So just understanding the mechanics of futures trading with, learning from people like that, learning from um, the people I've mentioned are more experienced future traders. I think that right there serves as such great motivation and inspiration to be like, oh, to feel more of a sense of in control of, your own fate, a sense of, I think Kim actually mentioned the word self-efficacy, a sense of agency over your finances.
Nice rundown there. Appreciate that.
Sure.
Speaking of Kim, what are you watching in the market right here? We're still pushing.
Well, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
I think he brought up a really good point. So, for example, if I was long Tesla, which I'm not, but I am long a lot of tech stocks, and if I was thinking, okay, Tesla's down, or I think Tesla was going to down and was going to go down, and then drag the market down, I could have gone short NQ last night to kind of hedge my portfolio. If I would have bought the Tesla options, the puts, they weren't making that much money this morning if you were going out of the money, right? So so that's another reason to play futures, because the theta burn, you would have had to been really quick this morning. Like, let's say that you had puts at 170, you would have had to been really quick to grab gains on that, because that rapidly the premium went out of that. I was actually watching it this morning. And so a strategy I use is to go short NQ, because I'm long a lot of tech stocks. So if I think Tesla's pulling the market down, then I can just go short some of those micros. So that's another reason why and you would have made bank. And I actually was short some MNQs from yesterday. And, they were up about, I had 4 on, they were up about $1,000 this morning on open, right? So that's another reason to play. And I know how many that is, right? It's, if I was short 4 MNQs, that's 80 shares of Qs. That's how I like to think of it. That's what works for me, is to think of it as how many long or short Qs I am. And so that was 320 Qs that I was short. And so that somewhat hedges my portfolio, not really, but a little bit. So it's nice to be making some green when the market is down like that. And that's just straight profit. You're not worrying about all of the Greeks. If I'm using options, I like to sell options and play the theta decay on the other side of it. So I actually had a trade on Tesla that was taking in premium, and I won't go into it because I know that's not what this is about. But I was looking for that theta decay on Tesla. That's why I was watching it this morning. So there's so many different ways to use the futures. I think Blaine also mentioned futures options. And, you can buy and sell options on futures, and those don't have the theta decay either. They have a little bit of slippage, but not the way that regular options do.
I just took a small short here on MNQ.
I like that. Yeah. After we hit so I've been posting a lot more SPY levels too. Just because I know a lot of people just focus on SPY, a lot more in general. And we hit a SPY level exactly to the penny at 412.33. I grabbed a quick short off of that. I didn't want to, hop in on anyone else speaking for a few points there. And since then, we've just absolutely been taken down here. If we come back into that 411.50 on SPY, I'll be looking to take a possibly quick long, depending on how we react. We're just 5 cents away right now, and we're breaking under it right now.
Yep, get my move right here.
Futures is almost basically back at open. We opened at 41.46. We're at 41.49 right now, and we're bouncing off that 411.50. or a small bounce at least. We'll see how it plays out in the next few minutes on how this candle closes on the futures.
Anybody else liking the short?
Yeah, I think that was perfect, Wolf.
Let's see what happens. See if we can get
a key level for NQ is it hasn't been able to cross 13260. So like it hits it, it goes down, hits it, goes down. So that is a real key level to watch. And I got that number from Mark MTZ. So every time he says watch 13260.
I just grabbed a quick long here, 41.49.50. Have a sell set for 41.51.25, where a couple candles and wicks line up. So just a basically $1.75 or $1.50 possible scalp, and it just filled.
Nice. I just took profit.
So for me, like everything I do with futures trading is literally just price action and candles. It just makes it so much simpler for me. Futures trading, and realistically for options trading, I do the same thing. The only thing I have on my chart is really just the 9 EMA and VWAP. But it's just so easy to scalp a couple points here and there with where the candles are basically clustering up with openings, closings, and wicks. So that was just a simple one for me off the for SPY, let's say the 411.50. I got basically long there. And then I always check on the futures too. So I know where to set my target or my exit. And I set it at that 41.51.25. As of right now, obviously we went a little bit above, but still, at least I'm securing something there.
Yep, nicely done. Glad I got out of that too, right there. That was just a quickie. All right. Let's see. Stock market news. Evan, what's been going on by you?
Nothing too much. We haven't had the craziest of mornings. It feels like everyone was saving their news for the earlier in the week, or they let it all go. Watching this fear and greed index right now, 65. Posted the inverse Kramer plays for yesterday. Jim Cramer was bullish on Starbucks. He was bearish on Upstart. So shout out to that. We had Amazon expanding its office supplies business in Europe after a pandemic sales boost. So maybe they're replacing Staples. And then one non-stock story that we didn't talk about earlier was the MLB's Oakland A's have signed a binding agreement to purchase land near the Las Vegas Strip, where they intend to build a $1.5 billion stadium. So another team leaving the Oakland area.
It's kind of funny because they're like the worst team in the league, and now they're moving to Vegas.
Maybe this will be the start of something good for them. Have you seen the Oakland Raiders arena? That thing is a spaceship, so expecting something big.
Well, not only have I seen it, but I went to the first regular season game that they ever held.
Yeah, I did forget that for a second, but it's pretty cool. It's a crazy stadium, right? I'm expecting something similar. U.S. March existing home sales minus 2.4% to 4.44 million rate. I don't have the expectation, but I don't know if this market's moving off that.
Did that just come out? Oh, 10 a.m. I see.
The consensus, so existing home sales 4.44 million rate, consensus was 4.5, so below. And then New York Fed President John Williams told reporters that uncertainty cuts both ways. Blah blah blah. But it looks like another Fed speaker just is going right now too. Wall Street Journal article.
Nice. Eric, what else is going on by you today? Any questions you'd like to throw at some of our panelists?
Yeah, there's not much really going on. It's just kind of like, how do you guys keep yourself sane? That is one of my questions when, you see this chop and you're like, okay, well, I can get this, and then it'll move in the wrong direction, and you kind of sit there.
You ever find, I know, of course, there are people who will take a trade and flip it, and then it goes against them. I call it the unholy reverse button because that one's usually what um, does me in. But kind of curious if some of you guys have ever, like, how do you deal with it? How do you help someone with that problem? Because I know I have friends, and I can also say I'm asking for our friends. I've done it too. That's a habit that kind of perpetuates itself and just gets worse. But at least I've barely ever used that button again once I've taken my vow of no more unholy reverses. So just kind of curious to see if you guys have any, advice or just kind of breaking down the thinking behind it.
Sean, you want to take that?
Sure. I love the I love the phrase "unholy reverse button." I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree more. I mean, one intervention might be for people to realize what the reverse button is. I mean, it's marketing in and marketing out. I mean, you're leaving yourself at the. It's people like to talk a lot about alpha and beta and stuff. I mean, talk about it's laying on your back belly up to the market and letting them decide on that entry and exit. So that's something to consider if you're using the unholy reverse button. Also, I think that people, especially day traders and scalpers, and I could be guilty of this. I am definitely a day trader, scalper. Outside of investments, I don't do much swing trading. I don't hold things overnight very often. Certainly not options, or excuse me, certainly not any short dated option or futures trade. So I think that one thing that people need to learn in terms of the psychology of waiting, the psychology of patience, is to learn dialectical thinking, which is holding two opposing ideas at the same time. Dialectical thinking in terms of like the typical psychological dialectical thinking is like things like I'm doing the best I can, but I can do better, and I can do better rather. I'm strong and I'm vulnerable. Um, I'm capable and I need support. And to translate that more directly to trading, it's like there's always opportunities. Yes, that's very true. And there's not always good opportunities. And having the perspective and eventually the wisdom, because I think perspective turns into wisdom, to know so a morning like today, we have the period, the opening range was what, 41.45 to 12 points. And currently we are having an inside bar. And we've been battling 41.50 for a while. It is earnings season. We have this Tesla thing. Did we decide whether the Tesla rocket exploded or not? What's going on? Or not Tesla rocket, excuse me, the SpaceX rocket. Do we know what's going on
It
there?
did, but they considered it a success. But it did.
Okay. So, there's a lot going on, and just like in trade, good general trading practice, zooming out to the higher time frames for perspective is incredibly important. To look for better levels or levels to wait for that's just good trading practice. But psychologically, there's a way to zoom out to the higher levels, or excuse me, to higher time frames as well. And those higher time frames are things like why you trade and what's important to you, and what you care about, your values and the goals related to your values. And knowing that if I dive into no man's land, or I dive into a VWAP shuffle like we've got going on right here, unless I've have good reason and good levels and good skill and competence in my skill and acceptance of my limitations and all that it might be a good time to wait. Because, well, yes, there's opportunity. How good is that opportunity? And does that opportunity serve your long-term goals and values? Because not taking a trade is a position. You know, they say cash is a position. Like that's an effective trading choice as well that I think gets overlooked sometimes or doesn't get valued as much as, like, you know, go in and crush the market and yada yada. And that's fine if you can go in and crush the market, but the reality is most of us can't, or else the fail rate would be a lot lower than it is. So, you know, when it comes to things like reversing or constantly taking trades, like taking a beat and practicing patience is really essential. And patience can be practiced. Patience can be learned. I may have said this first thing before on here, or on some spaces, I believe I've said it, but you know, it might sound a little strange, but if you spend the next month, every time you go to a store, a grocery store, or whatever, if you go and pick the longest line on purpose and you wait in the longest line, you will learn something about yourself and patience. Because if you do that, just like in trading, you'll see other choices that you have to not be patient. You'll see, you know, the line light up, another lane open, and people go in. You'll see shorter lines as you are making the choice to wait, and as your mind might tell you, ooh, there's an opportunity there. Ooh, there's an opportunity over there. You have a choice not to listen to your mind in that situation, not to listen to those urges, rather, in that situation, and maintain the bigger perspective of, I need to practice patience here to build my longevity in the business, and create the ability to tolerate those urges and actively live in patience. And another way is just simply delaying gratification. And, you know, if there's something you want to go do, if there's something you want to, especially if it's like if you want to have a drink, or you want to have dessert, or you want to have, you want to go out and meet your friends, like things that are very desirable, like when you notice the urge to go do it, set a timer and wait. And as you set that timer and wait, sit and pay attention to what it feels like inside your skin to wait, and notice what your mind's telling you, and notice the urges, and notice the emotions. And that data, we're traders, we're supposed to like data. That data is very valuable, because then you can pay attention to that data, those experiences happening intraday, and know that, okay, these are the things that happen when I'm impatient. It's time for me to step aside, changing the relationship you have with those things that make up impatience.
Awesome stuff. Yeah, Kim?
Yeah, Sean said about delayed gratification. I think that is, and I've mentioned it on spaces before, that is literally one of the biggest keys, I believe, in trading, because you can see people posting on Twitter, or, you know, you can watch something move big and it's like, oh my God, they're making all this money. Like, I need to be getting there. You see a stock that you know that you should have bought, or an option that you're like, I was looking at Google, let's say at, you know, 89. I'm actually long Google, but, you know, I wanted to add more, and then it just started running, right? And it's like, okay, then it starts going up over 100, and you start getting FOMO, and you're like, I want to chase it. And that is one of the biggest things that I constantly have to work on. Delay my gratification. There is a plethora of research. The first researcher was Walter Mischel. You can go watch the marshmallow study. Just look up marshmallow on YouTube. And it is a study that showed, and it's been proven now to be a universally relevant concept in all cultures, that people that can delay their gratification are more successful in life. There is a huge correlation there. And what that means is that I'm sitting and I'm waiting. Now, that doesn't mean I'm inactive. And how do you wait? Well, for me, one of those ways is taking baby steps, right? So it's starting out going, okay, if I can trade and make $100 a day, what does that look like over every single trading day across a year? That's $24,000. Who doesn't want to make $24,000? I don't need to be making millions, right? I mean, that would be nice, but it's starting out small. If I can take those small steps and go, okay, I'm going to start with making $50 a day, or I'm going to start with $100 a day. And if I set my goals small, then I'm going to build my strategy that's going to be an efficient strategy, because I'm not trying to go too big and make unrealistic goals. And a lot of the delayed gratification studies showed that realistic goals, not unrealistic goals, it's what also helps people to be successful. So whatever that is for you, 25 a day, 50 a day, for me, 100 a day, right? If you can start there and you can build upon that, that helps you to delay your gratification. And over time, then you can start slowly building on that and taking bigger trades and bigger positions. But it also helps me to cut out the noise, because there's so much noise out there. I think Mark mentioned last week, there's a plethora of information, right? Our brains cannot take in all that information. We only have so much bandwidth. So I have to look at what is information that's relevant to me and the way that I trade, and take that information and build upon my strategy and cut the rest of the noise out. So delayed gratification, as Sean mentioned, is a huge, important concept. And if you can manage delaying your gratification or having patience, however you want to frame it, that will really help you to become a successful trader. And like I said, $100 a day is $24,000 a year. If I'm, I don't trade full time. So if I am not a full-time trader, hey, $24,000 extra salary or to reinvest in the market is how I usually take that money and reinvest it somewhere. That's like building over time and compounding. I see you post a lot of things, Wolf, about how do you build investment over time, starting when you're young, compounding. When you compound that over time, you're making your portfolio builds, multiplies exponentially if you keep being consistent about it.
All right. Thank you, Kim. By the way, another about 15 minutes, and then we're going to open it up a little bit more for general trading. But right now, we have just continued to move higher. Yeah, Nick?
Yeah, we're breaking that opening range here. Breaking above that 412.33, and on futures, 41.57 was our previous high. We're trying to do that right now. We have 50 seconds for this candle to hold. Would like a close and confirmation over, and a little possible retest depending on how far we close over it. If we start to break out, I'm just waiting for a range break trade now, basically.
Got it. How you feeling with the price action today?
I mean, looks good. Realistically, I kind of want to say something too, because I know a lot of people have been saying it's been kind of crappy. But in all honesty, with all these up and down moves, even if we're not physically really moving on SPY at end of day, all these up and down moves is what a day trader really wants. I mean, you're getting volatility, you're getting, points to play with. And this is like one of the best markets. Of course, again, there is some days where it actually does suck. Like the other day when we range traded for 5 hours in a $1 move, but still there is good moves to be had in this market, and this is a day trader's market. You just got to take what it gives you, and especially not force it. I think that's where a lot of people are kind of going wrong with it. Just again, go back to the basics, support and resistance, and just focusing on where things start to switch up and change up. And for futures, you have the ability to just even do scalps. You don't have to go crazy. So when I don't see when I don't see a trend in the beginning, like I didn't know where we were going in the first 15, 30 minutes, I just do little scalps. I build up a small, what's it called? I guess you could say safety net, and then, kind of go from there. Now it looks like we're range breaking upwards. so I could possibly get a long and hold it for a little bit here. That's kind of my thought process, at least.
Sweet. Nice rundown. Yeah, Eric?
Yeah, I was kind of gonna follow up on that and think, so for some of us who are, well, okay, not for some of us, there are a lot of people who can do the day trading shop or whatever, do it pretty well. Like, and that's great. I know there's a lot of people who are probably more accustomed to doing like trends. So I guess my question is, so, and I've had this happen to me before, and I know it has happened to a lot of people, but say like you're in a trade, right? So say you're going for, I don't know, let's go for 8 ticks, right? And you're in your trade, you're like, all right, it's going there, it's going there. It tags your 8 ticks, but because it is live, you get the problem of price execution, and it doesn't execute your price, and then it reverses on you. Way that you guys have psychologically found that is beneficial to deal with this, because I've had it happen to me, and it's just like, oh my god, that's the worst thing in the world. It just blows up in your face. Just kind of curious if it's the advice on how to deal with the greed and the fear factor.
Interesting points. I do see Pax in the audience. If you'd like to join up, Pax or Paper Gains, either one of you, feel free to hop up on stage. We just keep moving up here on M&Q, just pushing.
I wanted to say something about the greed and fear factor, if I can.
Yep.
I think greed is just asking yourself, if I make X number of dollars, will I ever be satisfied? Most of the time, I think when we're greedy, no matter how much we have, it's never enough. And so that's why I like to, again, go for realistic gains and just set literally a target for me that isn't like what I perceive as greedy, right? Also, another way to alleviate my greed is to give a portion of what I earn. So that sounds kind of like, oh, maybe, I don't know how it sounds. But in all honesty, when you're looking at other people and what they don't have, or people that are struggling, or people that are going through cancer or whatever, just being able to go, you know what I make, I'm going to give a portion back. That I think helps to curb the greed factor, because you're getting out of yourself, right? And the more that I can get out of myself and see a bigger world around me, that actually helps to curb greed, because greed is one of the greatest killers, and it'll hurt your trading every single time, because you can make big, huge gains, and then you get to the point, and Mark saw this, and I know Pax has probably seen this on the trading floor. People made huge money, millions and millions and millions of dollars, and they lost it all by essentially getting greedy and taking on too much risk, in a nutshell. Fear, I think, is a more difficult one. And, I'm a mental health therapist, like I mentioned, and fear really does paralyze people. And I think you have to ask yourself, is this a realistic fear? And what I ask my clients is, think of the worst thing that can happen. If you think of the worst thing can happen, like in a trade, for example, what is the worst that can happen? If I think of what's the worst that can happen and I make a plan for it, then I'm better able to cope with it and better able to step into my fear. So really, it's, to me, looking at kind of catastrophizing things and going, okay, if this happens in this trade, or if this happens if I short the market, what am I going to do? I can manage that. And then if I have a plan to manage it, it's not so scary, and I'll be more willing to walk in it.
Yeah, good points, Kim. Penn, you want to come in off that?
Sure. I just wanted to say that something I've been working on really recently. Well, first of all, I wanted to give a recommendation about Sean. He's been on my podcast a couple of times, and I think he's amazing and so helpful in setting up a process to keep your emotions in check. Like, big fan of his. And if you guys, don't know who he is, please give him a follow. Like, massive fan. But then also, I've personally been working on trying to, and I'm not trying to be like hippie about this at all, but just trying to listen to like my own body when I'm in a trade, because I think a lot of times like your mind can tell you one thing, but that your body knows. So I do try, like I told you guys today, I got long QQQ off the opening range, and then I took some off and I put in a stop and know that I can't lose any money on that trade. And I am like cool as a cucumber, right? Like I know I did exactly my plan. I followed my plan. Like my chest isn't tight. My body isn't feeling super, super tense. And as soon as I start to tense up, or like my neck starts hurting or my back starts hurting, or I'm, breathing a little faster, whatever, I really have been trying to take a pause in a beat and be like, do you want to be in this trade? Like, did you get in this trade for the right reasons? Are you, is it worth the mental and physical strain to be on this trade? Because I tweeted, so I'm sure everybody knows, I just had a super high like blood pressure situation and I'm living under a lot of stress day trading. And I just have been working on trying to be like mindful of my own body and let that dictate mentally what I do in some trading, and listening to my body saying, maybe we don't trade today. Maybe we have a personal day, or, let's not force this because the physical reaction is going to be worse than any monetary loss, really. So that's just personally what I've been working on. That's all I got.
All right. Thank you, Patty. Yeah, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, same thing. Just quick touch over it. I mean, like Kim was saying, I mean, I was one of those people. I started, trading, and at the time I was younger. So, well, not that I'm old, hopefully not, but I was younger, and um, I had a lot more risk. I mean, I was able to take a lot more risk. Um, in terms, it did well for me, and in terms, it did bad for me. I I was able to make, good money, um, and able to diversify a little bit into real estate, into dividends and stuff, and thankfully I did, because I was still new to trading, and I lost a lot of money from what I made, like, 200, 300,000, which is absolutely disgusting to even think about, but, I say that because I know there's other people out there who've done it, and I know there's great traders who've done it, and you just literally need to basically grow from, you know, that state of mind and where you were, and grow from that, trading point and where you were, and, you know, find a way to change it up. Whether it's sizing, which for me it was, sizing, taking money out, diversifying. Like I said, I put money in real estate, I put money in dividends, things I won't touch. Um, so I'm at least generating more income in other areas. And like you posted that thing before, Wolf, the things to become a millionaire, the seven incomes. Um, you know, there's many ways to get around that greed. And again, as a young person with unlimited risk at the time, it was all about greed. Um, so sizing down definitely helped, and obviously helped my mental as well. Because when you're losing, that amount of money, it's just disgusting to even think about on what you could have done with it, um, and what it could have become. Um, so anyone, starting or currently, just be smart, you know, size appropriately to what you can handle and what you can lose. Because every trade you got to go into it thinking, if you're putting 2,000 in, you could possibly lose that 2,000. That's one of the biggest things to kind of think about going into it. Um, and I'll kind of just leave it at that because I see Sound's hands up too.
Yeah. Sean or Pax? Yeah, Sean, you want to go, and then we'll go to Pax?
Sure. to
I'm going to say, why is he calling on me? Oh, I got to get ready. What am I going to say?
to Blaine's point, and thank you for the shout, Blaine. And if you, Blaine's Penny Lane Blaine, much more well known than me, but she's like a ray of light of transparency and honesty and sincerity on Twitter. So follow her. I really adore her a lot. And to some points that she made and Kim were making, I think there's some psychological fundamentals that people need to know the same way they need to know about trading fundamentals. And one thing is that all of us, every human being's ancestors, were the greediest, most socially influenced, and best worriers, not warriors, but worriers that existed. And that's why they survived. And contextually back then, that made sense, because greed wasn't how greed is now. Greed was like you had the most tools or shovel, kids or whatever to help you get through and exist in the days of hunting and gathering, when that was the prime, or whatever. Social influence wasn't what it is now. Social influence was you had to remain part of the pack to survive, because if you didn't, you would die, period. And the best worrier piece is because when you were the best at remembering where the dangerous times of the day to go out of the water because the animals are feeding, or this is where the bears are, so don't or I shouldn't use bears in trading. This is where the lions are, so stay the hell away from there because they're going to get you. That's how they adapted and survived, and it's been the last few thousand years, and especially since the Industrial Revolution, that stuff that helped us survive now kicks us in the teeth, because obviously greed is a big problem with trading. Social influence is the most. I mean, hell, we're on Twitter right now, but we have so much influence from people around us that we take in, and the point is, those evolutionary characteristics that we're all bred from, they're very strong in us. And if you want to continue to evolve and not be part of this old unevolved mind that we have that's been greatly amplified by the Industrial Revolution. And what I mean by that is basically we have way more time on our hands than we've ever had. So now we have things like depression and anxiety and worry and fantasizing and wants and needs that get overly exaggerated because we're not working from dusk till dawn to exist anymore. So knowing that and accepting that is really important so that you can see greed and see failure, or see greed and see the social influence and see the effect of worry and how they have on you. And to Penny's point about, I wouldn't call it hippie, paying attention to your body. That's a thing that is really under addressed in older psychology that has far worse outcomes than the psychology that we know about now. And there's a difference. If you're really into it, Google the difference between second wave and third wave behaviorism. And one of the things that third wave behaviorism does, it helps you pay attention to your body. It helps you pay attention to those things like Penny was tension and your gut and its influence on how you feel, because that is data. That's your nervous system talking to you and telling you something, and you have to learn to listen to it as a trader. In time, it can develop into great instinct and gut, but early on, it's not going to be that just yet. So you have to use it for what it is, and it's often a warning sign. It's often trying to say, like, you're not comfortable with this or you're uneasy, so it might be time to cut this trade. And as you develop as a trader, it can become more nuanced. But in the beginning, it's about noticing all these things, developing awareness of all these things so that you can make more effective decisions. And you become more psychologically flexible the more you're in tune with what's going on. It's that cliche, that we talk about is trading psychology. People have like, stop trying to ignore emotions and pay more attention to them because they're valuable. They're good data. So as you continue in your journey and you learn to pay attention more, you learn to build your emotional intelligence, build your insight, you can use that information to inform trading decisions and use that information to be on your side rather than try to get rid of it or try to minimize it, but leverage it to your advantage.
Good stuff, Sean. Pax, what's going on?
I didn't know I was unmuted earlier when you said, come on. I was just kind of half listening to everybody. I'm long out of the opening range. The opening range today it's been a very, very easy and very simple trade. But, greed, I think greed, patience, and discipline are three words I don't use. I don't know nobody takes the time to actually define discipline or patience or greed in their trading. They mean so many different things in so many different situations. So I don't use the words. I mean, I live a disciplined life. I wake up every morning and do the same things every day, stick to the same routine so that I know whether or not I'm confident, carefree, fearless, and focused when the market opens, which is the first step in me determining what my size is. The next step is what the opening range is. Today, the opening range in the S&P is 41.47.5 to 41.45. So I'm long at 41 at 47, 47.75. I've paid for my trade and I've taken profit at 56. So I can be patient because now the market is going to do whatever the market is going to do. I'm long. If the market comes back down and stops me out of the remainder part of my position, that's what the market gave me, and I'm satisfied with it. If the market continues to extend and trades back up to my macro target of 41.87, well, then I'll flatten, and I'll take a short like that again. I think just learning how to stick to a process is what's going to help you become a patient trader. I'm in life. Normally, I'm very impatient. I want what I want. I want it now. And I think that most traders are going to be like that, not investors, but traders. We want results now. But when I live my life according to a process, a routine, and I schedule my day and I journal, my thoughts and things going on, I'm more likely to live what looks like a disciplined life and to become more of a patient man. But naturally, I'm not, which is why I need to do the same things and take incremental steps every day. As traders, if we are not every day working on being better versions of ourselves, we are moving backwards. There's no standing still. Going back to something Kim had said about, greed. I cannot tell you the amount of traders that I know that went broke after making $10-20 million, and a lot of it had to do with things changing, and not being flexible enough to be able to change with it. I'm a momentum breakout trader, and in the early 2000s, I made a lot of money trading the momentum breakouts in the Nasdaq. When ranges contracted from 03, 04 to 07, it was a very difficult trade because we are range bound. Very much, in that's in a historical sense, but very much like we've been trading lately. We're trading on the weekly, our low is 41.43, which is what we did this morning, and the high is 41.98. But yesterday's trading day high of 41.87, that's the big level. So between 87 and 43, no breakouts, range bound. So what am I looking for the market? I've got a process to be able to help me define my trades and to let me know where I'm going to initiate it at, where I'm going to get out for an expense, and where I'm going to get out for a profit. One thing I was taught early on, and I talk about this with every trader I know your second trade first. Before you put on a trade, know where you're going to get out for both a loss and a profit. If you don't know your second trade first, don't take the trade. If you don't know where you're going to get out for, in my words, an expense. I don't lose money, I spend money. But if you don't know where you're going to get out for an expense and a profit, then don't take the trade until you have that trade defined. Anyway, I really wasn't I wasn't in the spaces all that long. I came in just a few minutes ago, so I was a little taken aback when you invited me to speak, Wolf. But I always enjoy listening to younger traders, to new traders. There is there is no substitute for experience. And my experience is, I'm continually learning, because again, if I'm not moving forward, I'm moving backwards. Traders have no room for complacency, and we have to be very selfish in many ways. Selfish meaning I've got to be self-assured, self-confident, self-possessed, self-satisfied. All those things, which I think would be the definition of selfishness. But it's in that selfishness that helps me live a selfless life. It's in knowing who I am and what I'm bringing to the screens, and controlling my trading and not allowing my trading to control me, that ultimately helps me or enables me to be of benefit to those that I love and that love me, and then those that God brings into my life. So that's it. I always enjoy listening to you guys speak, especially the younger traders, and I hope you guys are all having really good days. These range trades can be very difficult, for some. But if you've got a trading methodology or trading process that will help you take whatever the market gives you out of it, and that you're satisfied with it, you don't have to be happy. I'll be happy. I'm long a few. I'll be happy if the market screams up to 4,400. But I'm satisfied if I flatten at 4164. Learn to be satisfied with what the market gives you. Not necessarily happy, but satisfied. If the market comes down and scratches me out, well, I still made money. I'll go play golf. I'll go work out, and I'll be satisfied with what the market gave me. So those things, being satisfied, all of those things, and sticking to a routine, all of this helps me remain self-possessed, so that I can control my trading and it doesn't control me, so that I am disciplined, patient, and not greedy. What's the opposite of greed? Kim, what's the opposite of greed?
Giving. Selflessness, altruism.
Yes.
Gratitude.
Yes. Gratitude. Grateful. Right. Grateful. Who said that? That was a great answer.
Sean from Sound Trading Psychology.
Yeah, that was a great answer. Grateful. I'm long 47.75s. If the market comes down and scratches me out, I've taken 14, 15 points out of the market. I'm grateful for that. If we extend through 41.87 and I add above that, well, I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful with whatever it is that the market gives me and what I'm able to take out of it.
It's a great antidote for greed. It's not the only one, because like you said, greed's a big topic, but it's a great antidote for greed.
True that. And altruism, giving, right, Kim? I can't tell you how important that is to me, But I'm not going to be giving, and I'm not going to be altruistic, or at least truly in my life, unless I'm self-contained, self-confident, self-assured, self-satisfied, self-aware, right? Unless I'm self-contained. What's up, Nick?
I just gotta hop off, but we basically try to break that upper range there at 412.35 on SPY, and just about, I think it was like 41.60. 41.63 for me on futures is a big spot to watch. But yeah, I gotta hop off here. Hopefully you guys have a great day, and same thing going into tomorrow as well, and a great weekend for those that I won't see going into the rest of the week.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks for being on, man. All right, let's take a look at the market here. Stock market still moving towards the upside. SPY only down about 0.43% in the day. QQQ down about 0.4%. Tesla still down about 7.5%. What's up, Kim?
Well, Pax brought up a lot of great psychological concepts. He said self-esteem, self-confidence. All of those are really, really important. And I'm sure Sean can attest to this also. One of the research articles I was just reading does talk about self-esteem. And a lot of clients that I see in my office, you know, a lot of the issues are like negativity on themselves, right? So then loop that over to trading. If I see it all through a lens, like I had said earlier, like I can't do this, or I don't believe I can do this, or I don't know that I can do well, well, then I need to get my mindset, as you know, Blaine said, I need to get my mindset right. Blaine touched on feeling your body essentially, and you know, I laughed because you said that might be a hippie statement, but it's called mindfulness. It's being self-aware. If my cortisol in my body, and this is a physiological process, right? If my cortisol in my body is pumping through and I'm in this fight or flight mode when I'm looking at my screen, I'm going to make poor choices. So what Blaine said is correct. I need to like breathe. I need to walk away, take a walk. I need to be aware of, you know, those chemicals rushing through my body that are creating anxiety, and take a step back to lower my anxiety, my heart rate, my blood pressure, lower all that so I can have a clear mind, because all those things cloud your mind. So it was a great thing that you said, Blaine and Pax, the importance of being mindful, self-aware, and positive psychology. Gratefulness, altruism are all pieces of positive psychology, and the more that we incorporate those pieces, the better attitude we're going to have towards ourselves, having self-compassion, recognizing that losses are part of the game. I don't want to call it a game, part of trading, and that I can have compassion for that and know that, hey, I'm going to have a loss one day, and that doesn't mean it's the end of the world.
Thank you, Kim. Yeah, Sean, and then we'll go to SS.
Thanks. And Kim, it was some spaces recently. I'm not super active on Twitter, but I discovered you, and you're also someone I've been, you know, your contributions, your positivity is really great, and also nice Jade Lizard the other day. That was impressive.
Thank you.
But anyway, you're welcome. Shoot, I lost my train of thought. To some of those points you made, you know, I've been a psychotherapist for 20 years, and I do, you know, a lot of work with individuals. I do a lot of work with groups, both in my mental health practice and my trading psychology practice. And, you know, to some of the points you made about positive psychology and you know, gratefulness and gratitude and self-compassion, and those things are so important. They're components of psychological flexibility, which is a super important concept, and I think makes for better traders. And in terms of the personality things, the self-defeating beliefs and whatnot, you know, people don't always realize that, or don't always accept, I think is a better way to put it, that they bring their histories with them to the market. And especially if you've had a more challenging life or a difficult life, if you've had more barriers or obstacles than the average person, you really have to look hard at how those things affect you, because issues, like really common issues like abandonment issues you might get from your parents being divorced, or someone dying, or someone, you know, a parent not being available to you because they were whatever, they were ill, or they were addicted, or they were narcissistic or workaholic or whatever. Those types of issues play out in the market, because if you know, feel abandoned in your life and unsupported in your life, you know, you're not going to trust positions. You're not going to trust that the market's going to hold. It's going to affect your perception of the market. If I don't trust myself, if I don't trust people because I haven't been treated well, and I'm not going to trust myself, and therefore as much, because why would I trust myself if I don't believe I can trust other people, if I haven't had that experience in my life? So if I don't trust myself, how the hell am I going to trust my trade? You know, you're more likely to pull your stops. You know, you're more likely to not enter or have anxiety about this stuff. And these things that might seem really unrelated to trading, but they're absolutely related to trading. If you grew up alienated in a loan, or if you were, you know, felt different than people around you, you know, you're going to be much more susceptible to social influence, much more susceptible to like furus and like people that are saying, hey, come on, join us, and we're doing this right. And, and influenced by the group, the people around you, overly influenced by the people you spend your time and day with, and looking at your own life issues. We all have them. Kim, I'm not sure what sort of perspective or school of thought you use in this. I like the maladaptive schema model and the adaptive schema model from Jeff Young, but understanding those things and how they manifest across contexts is essential. And those are the things that when you have problems that you repeat over and over in the market, assuming that they're not because you don't understand trading well enough yet, they're very likely tied into a personality characteristic like that, a lifelong issue you've had, and it's just, it just keeps on kicking you in the butt. So those are the types of things to really look deeply at if you want longevity in this business.
Well, you brought up a great, if I can just interject, maladaptive or adaptive way of like coping or managing with your life. So just really quick to build on that, we will build maladaptive ways of coping, and they might have benefited us. Like if our parents got divorced, or like, we were, lost
Yes.
our home or something in like 2008 during the financial crisis, and our parents lost their home or their jobs, our way of coping might have benefited us then, right? But now, as we get older, it's not a beneficial way. So we have to look back and go, okay, that benefited me at the time. And you can expand on this, Sean. But as I'm approaching the market, trying to bring it back to the market, if I needed to think quick and be in survival mode when I was younger, I don't need to do that today. And if I do that with the market, I may incur a lot of losses because I'm not taking a step back and thinking about what I'm doing. And you can probably speak more to that, Sean, but that was great.
Yeah. And that's, so was your point. And thank you. You just teed up a great one for me, because that issue of coping mechanisms being adaptive in certain contexts and times in your life and not in the current one is a huge problem that everyone that everyone has. I mean, I don't care who you are and how easy your life was or how good your life was. There's something. And just to give us a somewhat, I think, memorable example, I'll share this. Kids that grow up in a household where say you're verbally abused by your parents, or you're just critically, either your parents are really critical, harsh, cold, things like that, and you're told, and you're undermined, or you're told you're a piece of shit or something all the time, or you're told you're no good or whatever. At some point in your life as a child, it actually benefits you to believe it, as crazy as that might sound. So if the 500th time my parent has told me I'm worthless or something, at some point, instead of getting upset as a kid, you're going to be like, yeah, I know, because it stops you from being upset at that time, in that context, in that household that you really cannot escape until a certain age. And that's adaptive coping at the time, believe it or not, to believe that you're a shit or to believe that you're no good. However, when you leave that household, when you grow up, when you get older, because that programming happened at a really influential time in life, at a time when neuroplasticity was high in your brain, we're very malleable minds back then. We carry that programming with us in 2023, even though that happened in 2001 or 1985 or whatever it was. We're still carrying that programming. It's like buying a brand new computer and running Windows 95 on it. Is it going to work? Yeah. Is it going to work to its maximum potential? Hell no. So we have to start to recognize that we have these baked in beliefs and coping mechanisms that worked at one time, and that's the real bastard of them, is that they have this little nugget of truth or this nugget of functionality, and now they're kicking our butts. And because they've been there so long, and they generally start pretty young, not always that young, but they're very hard to shake, and they will absolutely kill you in the market if you don't know what they are, if you don't have that drive to learn about self and develop understanding of yourself, and know thyself. If you don't endeavor in that area, I don't think that you're going to make it very long term in the market.
Yeah, AJ.
Um, I would probably echo that, and I appreciate everything you've said, Sound, because I really haven't talked about that personally with anybody. So not many people know this as well, but I've kind of been through the same thing as a child, coming from um, an abusive household. So it's kind of shaped who I am, but I don't really like to talk about it. So I appreciate you bringing it up and mentioning it because I go to, I mean, I'll admit it now. I go to therapy for it, so it is what it is. But, I've had that shit dealt with for about 20 years in my life and working through it still now, but I haven't really come to terms to it. But I think I never really looked at it from your perspective of saying that it's easier to accept because probably resonates as true. Because I think if what you're saying probably is why I probably did at some point accept it. So kind of
Yeah,
shaped who I am. So I appreciate that perspective, and I don't really like to talk about it either. So we'll just that's really all I'll say about that.
okay. Well, I appreciate you sharing that, and it's brave to do that, and it's brave to get therapy and get help, and I commend you for that and for sharing it. So thank you.
Appreciate that, AJ, and good stuff there from Sean as well. We got about 8 minutes here until our next space does start. That's going to be a space with our friends over from T3 Trading, who should be joining us if you're in the crowd. Now's a good time to go ahead and request up on stage. So we're excited to have you joining in with us. Evan, actually, Kim, I'll pull it back to you.
Oh, I just want to, AJ, thank you so much for sharing. I'm sure that must have been really difficult, but your story, I'm sure resonates with a lot of people in this audience. And until we face our demons that are often hard, Sound was mentioning this, we're going to bring that into our trading and we're going to keep making the same mistakes. So as difficult as it is, if we can look at, okay, what happened, what everybody's had painful experiences, right, in life. And if we can look at what those painful experiences are and really try to grab a hold of them. And basically I call it, Sound, maybe you've done this too, narrative therapy, right? Like, here's my bad experience. This is what shaped me, but here's how it made me who I am today, the bad and the good. And here's where I can take it and move it forward to touch other people or make a difference in the trading world. If we can rewrite those stories, not denying them, but saying, this is what made me who I am, and I take it for what it is, and now I'm going to make it better, and I'm going to take a step forward. Once we do that, and it's really difficult to do, it can impact everything that we do, our job, our career, and back to trading, how we trade. So I really appreciate all of you sharing that, Sound and AJ.
Oh, thank you.
And Blaine.
I think honestly, my wake up call, I guess, my wake up call was really a credit to my wife because, after we got married, which was pretty recent, I wasn't really, I guess the word thinking about it or targeting it as an issue until she started to notice a pattern. And obviously, when your new person points something out, try to want to build something better. So that's honestly where it started from. So that's kind of what I'm working on now. But before that, if you were to ask me this or say something, I probably wouldn't care or admit it or even brush it. I would probably just brush it off. If I'm being frank, that's kind of what I did. So all the credit goes to her.
That's amazing, and it's so normal. Like in the sense of what I'm trying to say is, growing up in a household like that, abuse, whatever type it is, it's actually the majority of people, the majority of statistically, the majority of women and men have experienced that. And it's just really important to normalize and let people and put it out there and make it okay to acknowledge, ask for help, understand, and as traders understand that it affects us. Like there's this overrunning in I think in general, culturally, but in trading world as well, of like shortcuts. Look at ChatGPT, and I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but look at like the ChatGPT marketing out there. Everything's a shortcut for this, a shortcut for that. Be an alpha, crush this, crush that. Like bullshit. Most people, animals are alphas and betas. We're humans. Like that shit's pack animal stuff, and it's okay, and this shortcut mentality, this crush or overcome by whatever, taking ice cold showers and yada yada. Like there's some validity in some of those things, but when it comes down to it, it's about acceptance, opening up, being vulnerable, and letting the change happen. And just for some context out there, in Kim's point, I have done some, narrative is part of my therapy, but I have been a trauma specialist most of my career. So, and it translates a lot to trading psychology, because threat is so relevant in trading, and the effects of threat on the mind and the adrenals and all those kinds of things. But just throwing this out there for people, there's some therapies. EMDR is a great one for trauma and for just general life issues, the schemas I was talking about. Somatic experiencing is a great one. Brain spotting is a new one. That's a really good one. There's a lot of stuff that has a lot of data, and it doesn't have to take years, doesn't have to take forever to heal this stuff. It's really about willingness and tolerating that experience. So if you want to take that strength and that your willingness to dive into things and be disciplined and all that kind of good stuff, apply it to that as well. I just can't encourage you that. I just can't encourage people enough to be willing to do that.
Love it, Sean. Okay, so real quick, we got about 1 minute left here, and then I'm going to rotate in T3 as the next co-host. Appreciate you being on here. Eric, I wanted to actually give you just a second if there's anything else you wanted to share before we roll into that next space.
Yeah, no, I think this has been great. I think if anything, you guys have, I mean, it's helped me see a lot of things, even though I came from single household, single mom basically raised me, and it wasn't easy, but same time it does have its effects, as you guys have said. So definitely want to thank you guys for coming on, and we as part of ETF really want to empower our traders, and so we do really believe in things that Sean is doing at Sound Trading Psychology. So he's just one of our partners that we want to help traders and kind of help them find their discipline, find their way around this difficult world, because it is a challenge. So we do that, and then if you guys have any questions, please come be part of our community. Email our customer support. We have plenty of ways to just hook you up and just become part of it. So really appreciate everyone here, and thank you guys for having me and everyone else on here. So really appreciate everyone's insight.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate that. And Pax, if you have like a quick 30-second piece here, and then I'm going to rotate it, and I'll be moving T3 into co-host right now. Go for it, Pax.
Listen, what I wanted to say is I've been trading 25 years. Most of you know my story. I was one of the biggest traders on the floor at Chicago in the NASDAQ pit, and I've been a one-lot trader driving Uber on the fucking screens. I can guarantee you that you will bring yourself to trading, what you're conditioned to think about the world from your childhood, all kinds of things. You're too often young traders think that it's about where to buy them and sell them, and it's so much more than that. We all need a process that's repeatable, scalable, and consistent. Everybody, and you need to know the strengths and the weaknesses of it. But it's not going to matter. It's going to matter very, very little if you don't understand your strengths and your weaknesses as a human being, and how to maximize your strengths and minimize your weaknesses as a trader. That is your mindset, and what you're bringing to the screens is more important than any one aspect of anything to do with trading. So I just wanted to reiterate that, and I look forward to listening to the rest of to the next version of the spaces.